All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this month's member-only webinar hosted by Wisconsin Cheesemakers Association. I'm Grace Atherton, WCMA's Communications Director, and we're so glad to have you with us today as we dive into navigating the future of sustainable packaging. We'll go into this topic a little bit more in depth and go over our agenda in just a moment, but first I want to start with a couple of housekeeping notes. Please make sure your mic is muted and your video is off to avoid interruptions during our webinar. You can submit questions anytime using the Q&A function during our session, and we'll do our best to address all of those during our Q&A at the end of all of our presentations. And I want to note that a recording of this webinar, along with a list of resources and contact information, will be shared later this week with all registered attendees. So please watch for that in your email inbox from me. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Danica Nilsasu, and she is WCMA's Grants and Business Programs Director, and she's going to get us started today. Danica?
Thanks, Grace. Do we have an agenda slide?
Yes, there you are.
Okay, so welcome everybody. We have a jam-packed agenda today, so I'm going to cruise as fast as I can through this quick intro. We've got 5 amazing WCMA supplier members who are going to be speaking to us about recyclable, sustainable packaging options, followed by a hopefully, fingers crossed, 10 minutes of Q&A. So like I said, we're so excited for everybody to join us today. This is a greatly attended topic for our webinar today. As Grace mentioned before, I'm our Director of Grants and Business Programs, and part of the business programs role that I have is leading our efforts to grow our portfolio of offerings related to sustainability practices for dairy processors. As many of you know, sustainability has been front and center over the past few years at our industry-leading conferences, CheeseCon and Cheese Expo, and have been featured in our keynote addresses in our breakout sessions. Over the past 2 years, WCMA staff and our board of directors have been working to prioritize the creation of sustainability tools and resources for our members, starting with one-on-one exploratory meetings with partners and processors to an interest survey and roundtable discussion. We've been able to narrow down key areas of focus for our 2024 and 2025 program offerings. Well, more than 75% of our survey respondents indicated that they had customers asking them to report on sustainability practices and report data. Less than 30% had conducted a materiality assessment. So earlier this year, we held a Materiality 101 webinar, and just last month, a day-and-a-half long in-person workshop focused on teaching attendees how to develop and implement their first materiality assessment. When we asked survey respondents to indicate key sustainability topics of interest, sustainable packaging was the #1 response. So here we are today. We will continue to keep you updated as we develop more programs, workshops, and webinars throughout this year and next. Now I'm excited to welcome our first speaker, Todd from FreshLock. Todd, if you're speaking, I think you might be muted.
Good afternoon. My name is Todd Moisling, and I'm a member of the FreshLock team at Presto Products Company. FreshLock is proud to be your choice for press-to-close and slider reclosable solutions in flexible cheese packaging. The one thing about the cheese industry is that you have a long history of advancing packaging. Early packaging included clay pots that were buried underground, to muslin that was wrapped with fat as an early moisture barrier. Later, wax coatings, wooden boxes, and in the modern age, flexible packaging. Some of these formats continue to be in wide use as you go through the grocery store today. Within the scope of flexibles, there is also a history of change. From early materials like biax-oriented nylons, PVDC coatings, to the popular polyesters and co-extruded barrier sealants that are commonplace. The right package depends on the type of cheese product being produced, the performance factors required, and market and consumer expectations. Cheese runs on a variety of formats and equipment, from boutique hand-filled applications to rigid containers, semi-rigid thermoform trays, and of course, both vertical and horizontal pouching, which our FreshLock team supports for reclosability. The point here is that when it comes to navigating the future of sustainable packaging in cheese, there is a legacy of challenges that have collectively we have met and overcome for the advancement and growth of these important products. I always like to show this model because it gives us a set point of where we want to be. When I first saw this, it was compared to a linear packaging economy that we have now, where we take something, make something of it, use it, and then throw it away. Here, we have a uniform look of circularity. And to me, it always gives you a sense of optimism, as it's a positive thing on capturing those materials and reusing them again. But the reality is, as packagers, we know that this model looks more like a flat tire right now. There are breaks, there are thin points, and there are areas that we're doing very well in, and then there's areas where we really need help. From the manufacturing standpoint, on a flexible side, we have made a great steps in advancing resins that are recyclable and turning those resins into film closure materials that will process and optimize for equipment. We still have more work to go, and the technology continues to advance. The challenge we have is once we get it delivered to the consumer, how will they know that the package we're providing them has a circular end? How do we know that they're going to look at that package and know what they're supposed to do with it in a short period of time, and then actually have the infrastructure where they can do something with it so that we can recover those materials and use them for secondary life? The future of sustainability requires our collective efforts to navigate our packaging, our process, and our messaging to help make this a real circle. For flexible packaging, it means showing the management of flexibles is much better than eliminating them. And for cheese packagers, it means you need to consider what's required to move your packaging portfolio away from the trash bin to the recycle bin or another circular path. Historically, the largest benefit of flexibles is the impact they provide when compared to many other rigid formats in terms of the production of flexibles contributing to greenhouse gases. It's usually notably reduced. There is generally a significant reduction in the amounts of plastics used versus rigid. Flexibles show a notable consolidation in shipping and warehouse and movement of traffic and goods from one place to the other. And the total packaging cost is generally more efficient, especially for large throughput production operations. Many of the projects we work on today are in the form of collaboration, of transitioning products from rigid plastics to flexible films. And in fact, the two primary knocks against flexibles has been how to properly recover and recycle them for secondary use. I'm fortunate to be in a business that supports cheese packaging by helping to contain and preserve and protect the products as a complement to the film, as an aid to the consumer by providing reclosability. Reducing food waste is also an important part of sustainability, and one that too often goes overlooked as part of the value flexible packaging brings. So what do? What are some basic steps? For a cheese brand, the first step is to right-size your portfolio. Take a look at your packaging and be honest with yourself. Are some of your products overpackaged? Are they underpackaged? Or are they simply idle? The second and sometimes most difficult step is to collaborate with your key supply partners. Sit down with the equipment, the film, the closures. Circle this all with the brand and discuss on how we can help each other in order to achieve your packaging goals. Then we migrate. We migrate from multi-materials to mono-materials where possible. And that's the challenge. In some applications, that's going to be much easier. In other applications, it's going to be very difficult. I attended the Sustainable Packaging Coalition in April this year. And at that conference, one takeaway that was obvious is that more and more companies and associations are calling for analytics. We're starting to move towards sustainability. What are we doing to pick up the data? What are we doing to measure our greenhouse gas reduction? The analytics are going to be more and more important as retailers, your customers, begin looking at their own sustainable progress. And then finally, educating consumers. Data will show that consumers are supporting companies that want to be sustainable, not just in what they're talking about, but how they're acting, how they're implementing products. But we have to find a way to educate them. Some of that's on the brand, some of that is in general industry. But that is going to be imperative if we want them to actually recover these materials and move into secondary life. Finally, I want to make sure that I take a moment to say, this is the time to use your voice. The president of the Flexible Packaging Association has been banging the drums and telling us that if we're not included in the conversation, we risk legislation that is not good for anyone. The key film suppliers for the cheese market have made tremendous progress in recyclable technology, but we need help in expanding recovery infrastructure so we can begin the process of educating those consumers and show that the brands have listened and have made changes towards sustainable packaging and circular solutions. Legislation is definitely coming. EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility, is coming. And now is the time to make sure that cheese is part of that conversation. And finally, going back a point, is collaboration is part of every successful package or every successful project that I've been a part of in sustainable packaging. When we come together and we work together for the greater good on this, we find that that is the best chance for success. And with that, please join me in welcoming our next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. I appreciate it. And my name is Trent Romer. I work for Longview Capital, and we own 17 different companies, one of which is Fredman Bag. I help companies in our portfolio to move in a more sustainable direction, and I work with Frank and his team, who do a great job in this area at Fredman Bag. Fredman is part of a conglomerate of 3 companies. Fredman is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that most of you know. Clearview Packaging is in Albany, New York, and Summit Plastics is in Summit, Mississippi. The 3 companies are unified, have a unified vision of domestic manufacturing, being people-focused and sustainability. Those 3 companies are being rebranded in the year to come. So be more on that as we move forward. Frank and I took this opportunity not to make it a Fredman Bag solutions program, but take 7 or 8 minutes and tell you how we think about sustainability, because I think sustainability is twofold. One are the materials you're putting out in the marketplace, and then secondly is who is in your supply chain? What are the companies in your supply chain? How do they think about sustainability? That's what this presentation is really about. So what is sustainability? Sustainability is defined by the United Nations as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. When you read that definition, I think it's super broad, very distant, and at some times feels paralyzing to figure out what do I do with that? What's my next step? Think about it about ESG, taken together: environmental, the E, the S is social, and G is governance, or ESG forms a framework for organizing sustainability efforts. E focuses on things like pollution, energy use, waste, and climate change. S focuses on things like workplace safety, employee health and well-being. and communities. And G, which is really often the forgotten one, focuses on the systems, diversity, and people in place to manage the E and the S. So the G is super important. Think of ESG as a bucketed approach to sustainability and helps the business identify risk, find new opportunity, and drive innovation. So we always start with this. Why are we doing this? Why is this a big deal? And what I find when I go into organizations is it comes with a lot of opinion and political views and whatnot. And what we try and do is strip that out. And the way we do that is we take a stakeholder view of the organization. Every organization has multiple entities interested in the business. There's 8 listed here. There's probably plenty more. Employees, customers, investors, community, supply chain members, regulation, social sentiment, and non-governmental organizations are all entities interested in the business. And when the business begins to take an honest view of that stakeholder viewpoint, they start to feel like some of these entities or all of these entities are beginning to push them in a more sustainable direction. So instead of 3 or 4 people sitting in a room trying to figure this out, get that stakeholder feedback, and that gives you your why. After you get that why and you get those issues from your stakeholders, you go through what is referred to as a materiality assessment. And essentially, it's a prioritization of those issues. This is a super simple diagram, and this is a 2-hour presentation unto itself. But on the y-axis is the stakeholder priority, and on the x-axis is the business priority. And the issues that fall in a high priority to the stakeholder and a high priority to the business are going to be in the upper right-hand quadrant. That's the area that you want to focus on. Those are the issues you want to put resources behind as you move forward. Doesn't mean that all issues aren't important, but this is a really good way to tease out what is most important to the business, to the industry, to the location. Once you have those priority issues, now you want to authenticate actions to address those issues. And we kind of go through this 8-step process. And I'm going to walk you through this in an actual example. But it's 8 steps that allow you to authenticate the actions you're doing to prioritize those issues for those priority issues. And again, we'll go through these 8 steps in a moment. So again, this is probably 4 hours of work here, but when I look at sustainability, I think about it in 4 words: stakeholders. They will help you identify the issues. Number 2, materiality, prioritize those issues. Number 3 is authenticate. Address those priority issues with authentic actions within the organizations. And then 4 is you're going to communicate what you've done back to stakeholders. So it sort of forms this loop. Get the issues, prioritize them, do something about it, and then communicate back to stakeholders. I always like this super simple slide, but it sort of speaks to a lot of things. Really, sustainability is the balance point of people, planet, and profit. Sustainability can be viewed as a balance of the needs of the planet, people, and business profitability. On the top of the slide, I don't know if you can see it or it is cut off. It's ESG plus F. The F is financial piece. It's got to make sense for the business to move in whatever issue they're acting on. This is not philanthropy, right? It's got to be a business, and it's got to be this balance. Too much in one area is often at the expense in another. Actions taken founded in a good business decision, and that's what that bullseye in the middle is trying to relay. So let's run through a quick example of these 8 steps. Stakeholders identified plastic waste as an issue to address. The authentic action that the company wanted to take was alternative materials. Step 1, current state. The company had no alternative materials that would qualify as being more sustainable. Step 2 is benchmark against others. They looked out, and same-size competitors had some options, but not very well defined. Larger companies had a few options to investigate. Is this issue important to stakeholders? Owners, stakeholders see it as an opportunity to generate new sales and spark innovation. Investors, stakeholders see it as a chance to reduce risk and stay ahead of regulation. Also stakeholders. If done right, employees see it as working for a more purpose-driven company. Communities, also stakeholders, see it as a benefit living near a company with sustainability as a key component. It is a material issue to both the business and stakeholders. Step 5, implement process changes, authentic internal actions. the company reached out to multiple material vendors for more sustainable options. The material choices were vetted by 3 questions. Could the material run on existing equipment? If more material was needed, could we get it? And was the material priced reasonably? After 10 trials and about a year of looking at different options, 3 new materials were stocked and were made available for custom orders. Step 6, train internal staff. The internal staff was informed of the new materials and part of the process in determining changes to equipment and processes that may be needed to run the new materials more effectively. Adjustment to equipment and new training for employees helped ease the transition to run the alternatives. Now, after all that's done, now you externally communicate. I think when you get into greenwashing, you identify the issue in step 2, and you go right to step 7 and you start communicating it. You got to authenticate that and embed that change within your organization. So after 3 years of the issue being identified, sustainable materials now account for over $1 million in annual sales. In step 8, this periodic review is a constant to keep building on the foundation of new materials and processes. Couple of slides here. The hope is we all act. We take actions to manage the sustainability of our businesses, communities, planet, people, and planet. We as a society, as an organization, or as a government, we are influencing sustainability. That's the hope. The fear is if we don't act, if we don't take action, and sustainability issues like tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, pollution, social unrest, and regulation begins to manage us. The reverse is going to happen if we don't do it. And that's sort of the push to, and the hope is to act. So sustainability efforts in the 3 companies, Fredman, Clearview, and Summit. There is a sustainability link off the homepages of each of their websites. A few quick highlights. We are members of the Sustainable Packaging Coalition. Fredman Bag is a landfill-free facility. Nothing goes to the landfill from their facility. It's a super hard to do, and kudos to Fredman for engaging in this. Post-consumer recycled content, compostable and bio-based materials are available from Clearview and Fredman. Clearview uses water-based things. There's a bunch of different things each is doing. I won't go through every one, but they are on the links to each of their homepages. Potential next steps. New materials is always something we want to trial and sample as we collaborate with customers. Todd had mentioned the collaboration piece is so important. New materials, collaborating on carbon emissions, and circular solutions, being that returning bags, wickets, boxes, things like that, any kind of circularity we can incorporate. And sustainability is such a moving target. It's ongoing, always learning. I listed, these are my books and my internal course that I created, but there's plenty of resources out there. And I would encourage you to be involved in your industry's trade show or find some books or some videos, because it's just an ongoing thing. It's a super exciting time to be in this. I thank you. I leave you with this. There is no perfect path, but there is a right direction. And directional change is what we're really, really gunning for. So again, I thank you very much. And I will turn it over now to Peter and Jeremy from Circle Incorporated. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Trent. Happy National Dairy Month, everyone. My name is Mark Pelcha. I'm the Director of Sales at Circle Inc. We're a family-owned company that started in 1978. We provide custom protective packaging across the United States and Canada. Our innovative approach provides creative solutions in the packaging world as well as great service. With no further ado, I want to introduce you to Peter Gabriel and Jeremy Nemeth and talk to you a little bit about how chipboard is made and some of the sustainable ways that it can be used in the market. So, Peter, go ahead.
Thanks, Mark. Covering the process of making chipboard kind of as a starting point. Chipboard is by nature it starts as a recycled product, and throughout its life returns back to being able to be recycled again. So we see here these bundles of collective cardboard. Essentially, you think about the waste that you put out for the garbage man every week, that collected and across all sorts of different categories and factories and manufacturing, gets returned back to a chipboard manufacturing mill. So we're green kind of before it was even cool to be green. Circle Incorporated is an FSC certified chipboard converter. We have a food packaging a compliant audit and Prop 65 approved. So when we put our to produce recycled paperboard, there are a few ingredients needed: old paper, water, heat, and pressure. At the start of this process, using recovered scrap, the recovered scrap is repulped and is put through a series of beaters and then fed into vats. These vats feed a wire, which is pumping up slurry of both fiber and water, and eventually produces a sheet that is 50% water and 50% fiber. At that point, it is ran through a calendar stack where they apply heat and pressure. The material is densified and is put into a roll. That roll is then processed.
Your slides aren't advancing. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but we're still on your first slide. So I think you need to get yourself to presenter mode and fast forward a little bit.
That's what we're in.
Got there before you hit that
It's gotta
slide
be-
pull down.
It's got to be over on the right-hand screen.
I don't know.
Or if you can't get in, there we go. Yeah, just go down, use the down button. There we go. Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
So in discussing chipboard manufacturing, it is eventually produced into rolls, and from the mill portion, it gets out into the market, and a company like Circle Incorporated will then take that roll, and we can sheet that roll into thin layers where you would see it used as like a deck sheet or as an interleaver pad. We in the cheese application sell this as a laminated product into cheese collars. Then we also can add coatings. So chipboard can be water soluble, so it's almost completely waterproof. Again, maintaining its recyclability and throughout the process. We can laminate it to heavy calipers. So in applications where wood may be currently used or plastics, we can introduce chipboard as a possible alternative. It can be die cut into multiple shapes. And can handle heavy loads of stacking. And so it's also an improved material for export. So shipping out of the country using chipboard as a package is something that is an opportunity possibly in the cheese industry as well. I'm going to pass it on over here to my coworker Jeremy, who's going to talk a little bit more about some of the sustainable benefits of chipboard.
Yeah, in addition to the material itself being sustainable by being a recycled material, we also look at sustainability as the impact on how it's being used. How do you get it from one place to another? How does it reduce costs to the customer, to the end user? And when you look at solid fiber chipboard as compared to, let's say, for example, corrugated, we can get, it's basically the same amount of fiber, but in a much thinner profile or caliper. And the advantage that gives to you is that you can get more product on a skid versus, say, a corrugated or sometimes, thick wood materials. So you can see in the photo there on the right, the pallet on the left-hand side has roughly about 4 times as many pieces on it as the pallet on the right-hand side. And the advantage to that is, you get more product on a skid,
It's going to be less number of skids to ship to you. It's going to be less skids to store. It's going to be less skids to handle within your facilities. You can get more product on a truck. So you can reduce the number of shipments, or you're going to increase your capacities per truckload. And by reducing shipments, obviously, you can reduce in carbon footprint, emissions, et cetera. As Pete mentioned too, the recycled chipboard can be recycled again for multiple uses. So you can take the material, the chipboard packaging material, you can put it into recycling containers, you can bale it, and mills will actually come and pick up that material to recycle it back into chipboard and other recycled materials as well. So you can have that advantage. In many cases, they'll actually pay for scrap depending on the price of scrap at the time. And then, in the cheese industry, I know there's multiple applications where there's returnable packaging, closed loop systems, and those require a lot of shipments, transportation from point A to B to C, and then back to A again. And if you can use one-way use type materials, you can definitely provide the opportunity to expand your distribution area to both domestically and the ability to maybe even export certain products that we aren't now. Pete mentioned a couple applications, but we're the liners for packaging around 40-pound blocks of cheese. We get into slip sheets and tier sheets, deck sheets, things like that. Shipping containers for or boxes for 640-pound blocks. Form trays that can be used either in cheese and dairy industry, but it's also used in many food packaging applications. Protective pads, custom die cut pieces. And Peter also mentioned too, in a lot of cases we can replace materials such as wood or even in some cases plastics. And there's probably many more packaging applications where recycled chipboard can be used, and we certainly look forward to researching those opportunities and providing those to the cheese and dairy industry. So appreciate your time, and turn it back to Mark for some closing comments.
I want to thank you guys for allowing us to present today to everyone, listening a little bit about chipboard and how it's made, and the sustainability aspect of what it is that we do and what we can provide. I think it's an untapped resource currently that we're not using, and we're excited to be part of WCMA, and we welcome any questions you guys may have moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for that. My name is Maja Duland. I'm Procter hired in a company called Procter Kolding in Denmark. I'm product manager on cheese wax. I'm an organic chemist, and I work only with the development of cheese waxes. So as you can see, Procter is located in Denmark. It's a Scandinavian company. It's a very old company. It's more than 120 years old. And we have been in the dairy industry all these years. We have, for the last 30 years, also have experience with production of cheese wax. So within cheese wax, we have two different brands. We have Procter Natural, and then we have Procter. I will come back to these just in a moment. Besides the cheese wax, we also deliver different types of ingredients, packaging, and also blends, but it's primarily for the Scandinavian markets. So the cheese wax. So what is cheese wax actually? So in cheese, all of you, I guess, because you're from the dairy industry, that the cheese do have flavor and characteristics, and also different types of textures, and it will develop over time. So for this cheese wax that we do produce, this Procter is a very traditional wax used for many years. It's a very unique and proven solution for different types of protective properties. So this applies both during the ripening of the cheese, the storage, but also when the cheese is ready for sale. And this would be different types of cheese. Of course, it's primarily for hard cheeses. So the most important task of a cheese wax would be to protect the cheese and the cheese quality through all these stages. So what is the difference between this very traditional cheese wax, the Procea, compared to the new sustainable wax? So our new sustainable product range called Procea Natural is based on totally different raw materials. If you look at the drawing at your right hand in the top, you can see the traditional cheese wax Procea based on actually crude oil. So it's derivatives from the mineral oil industry, and in that sentence, it's made of different types of paraffins, microcrystallines, waxes, and also Vaseline. So it has been undergone a lot of different process steps and purifications. And of course, it's safe to use as a food contact material. We do buy in the different raw materials to the traditional cheese wax range from different wax refineries. These wax refineries do produce different type of products for the cosmetic industry, for the pharma industry, of course, for the food contact material industries, where we collect our raw materials from, but they also produce products like tires and rubber additives. So this is a very traditional wax coming from the petrochemical industry. So the new range from Procea Natural is based totally on natural ingredients and also food products. So things that you are used to actually normal digest. And as you can see in the drawing, also at your right hand in the bottom, you can see that it's actually consisting of beeswax, and the beeswax is harvested along with the honey in the beehives. Then they are separated, the wax from the honey, in a very mechanical way, so no added chemistry or anything. Then it's filtered also very mechanically, and in that sentence, the beeswax is actually clean and ready to utilize in our blending facilities in Kolding in Denmark. So the steps in the Procea Natural cheese wax range is much more simplified, and it's at least also very less carbon footprint utilizing. Yeah, sorry for that. So looking into what did we do actually when we developed this new product range. So we did decide that our approach in this developing of a new sustainable wax would be to get the same type of properties in the new wax line. So 6 years ago, we started with this new development, and it took a lot of years because it's very difficult to get the exact same properties and thereby performance in a product that has been utilized for so many years in the industry, like the dairy industry. But the transition for us and going from a very traditional craftsmanship and the very experience-based approach would be in this in our journey to be making all the decisions at our customers in the dairies based on a different type of technical data. So we try to make this transition from the petrochemical industry into the natural product line to the sustainable choice. We try to do that by having the same type of functionalities and properties of our product in a way that the dairies would feel calm with changing from a very well-known product into very new solutions. And for this, we have actually developed a lot of new analytical methods, not by ourselves. We got a lot of guidance from a very well-known technical company in Denmark. And we have been working within the 3 following areas. So the first thing would be within the physical chemical properties. So in this industry, both in the petrochemical industry, but also in the dairy industry, there is some very well-known analytical methods, which are also ASTM methods. And that would be the congealing point. So the congealing point says when the wax is actually solidified and when the customers in the dairies can handle the cheese. Then there is the hardness. It is actually saying something about when can you handle the cheese during the processing without having the wax cracking. The same for the viscosity. It measures the flowability of the wax and the ability to achieve the desired thickness. So if you would like to have a specific amount of wax on your cheese. We also can measure the color migration and sedimentation. We also develop different mechanical properties. So this is techniques that has not been used in the industry before. So now we can actually measure the strength, the flexibility, and the adhesion. This is very important characteristics in a wax, and also if you have a data on it, you can compare it the old wax with the new types of waxes. Likewise, we did it with the barrier properties, where we did look into water vapor permeabilities in order to keep the moisture in the cheese during the storage. And also, of course, the oxygen transition rate is also very important in order to protect the cheese during the shelf life. So this all these results from these methods actually gave us a feeling that our new product line would be exactly like the old product line. So now they could compare the properties from both the natural wax along with the existing waxes. So for us, and for wrapping up, just to say, for us, the focus in this new development of a sustainable wax solution for our customers were to kind of rethink this traditional way to wax cheeses and protect the cheeses. So we had used a lot of resources on also documenting this transition from the petrochemicals to the natural products. Of course, I cannot share everything with you on 9 minutes, but we also decided that it was very important to keep the same equipment at the customers so they could use the same equipment and get the same performance. So we had in-house in Kolding, we actually established a wax lab, which is kind of a pilot plant, where we could screen different wax solutions with specific technology applications and different cheese types. And we could do that on behalf of customers, saving their time and resources in-house. And from this, we have actually offered and are able to offer a range of different sustainable cheese waxes like the Procea Natural. And with that said, thank you for your time. I would now hand it over for the next presenters.
Thank you, Maya. Okay. Well, my name is Nuño Arroyo. I'm the CEO of Cermer. Cermer is the world-leading manufacturer of ceramic food packaging. We are a 35-year-old company, original from Spain, and our clients come from different food segments, such as, of course, cheese, yogurt, ice cream, ready meals, or dipping. Basically, our clients come to us looking for a differentiating tool that helps them communicate the authenticity or superior quality of their products, but also attracted by the positive environmental impact of our containers. Now I will explain briefly about the product and our value proposal, and why we think that our containers are the perfect allies of the circular economy. I mean, we have developed our activity mainly in Europe, and now we're developing it in North America, and it's quite an innovative alternative for the industry. What sets us apart is our ability. I mean, we are used to say that we have industrialized and artisan activity, and what sets us apart is our ability to meet the strict tolerances that our clients require in order to incorporate our containers into their production line, working on ceramics. I will explain now that, of course, we are a food grade kind of packaging that meet all the requirements in Europe and in North America. All our containers are also treated so they can be heat sealed, helping avoid the use of plastic lids, for example. They are 100% customizable. I will explain that they are also reusable, as we manufacture them to be microwave, oven, and freezer safe. A very important characteristic of our containers are the fact that they are 100% inert. They are non-polluting in that regard, and also that we are talking about a valid alternative at an industrial level. Okay, currently we are producing around 500,000 units per day. Okay, so basically just some examples of our products within the cheese in the cheese industry. As I said, I mean, this is a very natural container that is made of a mix of clays and also glazes that are heavy metals free. Here are some examples. In your industry, we are talking about soft cheese, melted cheese. Also, you can see here ice cream, ready meals. Here in Europe, we are very much attached to kind of products like Les Saint Marcelin, Saint Félicien in France, or Provolone in Italy. Some products here for companies such as M&S, Lidl, and retailers. And now that we are new in the US, I mean, you can also see now in the main retailers, jars such as La Fermier, which come with in ceramics, glazes in different colors, and also heat seal. So why we say that we are or customers are attached or are attracted by our proposition? Well, first of all, the long lifespan of our containers. I mean, ceramic ware is conceived, designed, and manufactured to have a long lifespan, not only as packaging, but also as kitchenware and tableware. According to our market studies in different countries, most of our customers keep the containers at home for an average period of 5 years, and they reuse them mainly as tableware. Okay, something very, very important, and that's in order to claim that this is a perfect fit for the circular economy, is the fact that our containers are designed not only to be reusable, which they are, but to be 100% recyclable. And the fact that clay, once that is baked, we do not consider it as a waste, but a valuable secondary raw material. As there is a technology, an existing technology to recycle it, and there is a secondary market that is eager to buy this product, for not only to produce other ceramic products or containers, but also for civil works, construction works, or tennis courts, for example. We've been able to develop a product also that is 100% inert, which means that it doesn't pose any risk to water, soil, or air. Basically, it's a mix of clays in 95%, and 5% is made with ceramic glazes that are heavy metals free. This is quite an innovation because we are able to develop beautiful containers that are bright, but without any kind of lead or cadmium or any polluting metal. Of course, clay is abundant in nature. It is easily extracted, and actually our company has natural, I mean, once that they are exhausted, they are turned into wetlands, which becomes natural CO2 sinks. Something very, very important for us in our bet in order to provide this alternative packaging option for the food industry is the fact that it's also tableware, or that it can serve, add value to our products. In order to do so, we have developed them so they can be placed safely in the microwave. They can be placed safely in the oven, and they can also resist the thermal shock, which means that, for example, for ready meals, they can go from -30 Celsius degree to 240 Celsius degree without cracking. Of course, they can also be placed in this washing machine. So all that makes it to experience a very long lifespan. Of course, we comply with all the safety and food regulation. And I mean, this, as I said, I mean, I'm focusing on the sustainable environmental impact, which is the core. I mean, is the topic of the presentation. That is paired with the fact that it's customizable. I mean, any kind of customization, a logo, etc., that we can engrave on the exterior wall of the containers are truly appreciated by cheese producers, especially in Europe. In a way, they are proud to place into the market a positive environment, or a positive packaging from the environmental point of view, that customers keep at home and see their logo for a number of years at home. And at least here in Europe, it is a common talk nowadays. When we talk about any kind of food product, the fact that what is the environmental impact of whatever you have bought. So that's basically the bet that we've made as a company, to provide something that is differentiating, that helps you build a brand, but also helps our customer talk about the positive environmental impact of the whole solution. So basically, I mean, this is succinctly the presentation about who we are. I also was personally very much involved in the development of the packaging and packaging regulation that has been passed in Brussels recently, which fits within the circular economy action plan of the European Union, within the Green Deal, and where we have developed with all the concepts of circular economy requirements and extended producer responsibility too. So happy to discuss about it now in the Q&A. So thank you very much for your time.
Awesome. Thank you, Nuno. Thank you to all of our presenters. Everybody is so knowledgeable in their own different niche of this important area of interest of our members. So I'm really excited to kick us off for a couple of questions. As always, we ask members to submit questions ahead of time. And we got a couple of really good ones. So let's do it. Good luck to our presenters in answering these questions. So first, I gotta move all your little faces so I can read this. We've seen a lot of customer demands and legislation surrounding sustainable packaging. Can you share your experience with extended producer responsibility laws? What about registering as an obligated producer with the Circular Action Alliance? I can't even pretend to make up an answer for that question. So do we have any volunteers from our esteemed panel who want us to kick us off with a great answer for this?
I can take it, or I can at least give you my perspective on it.
Yes.
From my experience, I would think that PFAS and the elimination of PFAS in packaging materials could qualify as something that is legislation based. And it affected everybody that puts plastic packaging and paper packaging out into the marketplace. And for a period of time, I think it really created a choke in the system and the flow of goods because of the way we had to address it and qualify new materials. And I feel that further legislation will start to dig even deeper in those things. The one thing that I hear about PFAS is that a lot of that wording was written by legislators that weren't packagers, and that there weren't always a degree of packagers, or in this case, cheese processors, that were part of that conversation, but yet we have to take action with it. So that goes to watching out. As far as the Circular Action Alliance, to my knowledge, they're a producer responsible organization, and they're really active in states that have EPR laws in effect right now, like California and Colorado. And it seems like it's going to be a good thing. They're started by large CPGs. with the intent that as new laws come through and are passed, that the supplier or the brand can register through the Circular Action Alliance, and then they kind of help with the compliance aspect to not only consulting, but understanding the deadlines, translation, all that type of thing. So it's not a widespread group yet, but it looks like it's based to be a good thing.
Thank you. Nuno, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, especially since we have a lot of members who are digging deep into recyclable, sustainable packaging issues that are needing to make modifications due to export. And so I'm curious what your thoughts are on this.
Well, I mean, what we are trying to avoid is to have like a common set of rules in order to avoid this washing. And at the same time, what we are trying to advance is to an actual recycling. So basically here, the topics are the design of the packaging. It really meets the technology requirements. Something that has happened in the last 25, 30 years here in Europe is that we've been collecting waste that was designed, I mean, packaging waste that was designed not according to the existing technology. So this is a main point. Second point is being to play the numbers and really be honest about the economic and environmental sustainability of setting up specific collection systems for specific materials. Okay, it really needs to be sustainable. So currently, I mean, these are the two main topics: design. I mean, there's here in Europe, everybody is really investing heavily in the modification of the packaging design in order to meet our goals for 2030. So I guess that this is going to arrive. And then, of course, we are working on the business plans in order to prove that this can be made at a scale. I guess that in North America, we are in a position now. We need to set a specific collection system to collect the packaging waste, and it still needs to be seen which is going to be the different organizations that manage the extended producer responsibility on behalf of the producers. What I can say about exports is that by far, I mean, this is the most important marketing claim as of today in some food segments and some geographies. That's for sure. I mean, people are buying products, taking a lot of interest in the environmental impact of the packaging the product is fitting.
Danica, could I just add one quick thing on the ERP? Okay, great. There's 5 states right now with ERP laws. There's Colorado, California, Oregon, Maine, and Minnesota. Minnesota just passed. There's 13 more states that are looking into it. So this thing is coming, or is here in a lot of ways. And there's who is the producer? A lot of times it's the brand, but some states it's all about B2C, some are about B2B. So even if you're just selling business to business, some states will qualify you as a producer. And what is confusing about the whole thing is it's very much patchwork. You know, every state has their own individual laws. The Circular Action Alliance is the only pro right now for 4 of the states. So registering with them. And last thing I'll leave you with is the CAA has a podcast I think it's monthly or quarterly, and they are excellent. Just to get started, you'll better understand ERP, and they give an update on all the state's laws. So go onto their website, join their podcast, and you will become informed pretty quickly after listening to a few of them. And then you'll start to realize, is this a good thing or should we be registering with these states through the CAA?
Awesome. Thanks, Trent. Okay, so we are right at 2. I think we've got one more quick question. We can probably do a quick answer and then we'll close up. How cost competitive are sustainable packaging options today versus the available incumbent petroleum-based? This is a loaded question, you guys. Is there a price point beyond which businesses, while making statements about sustainability, will not support options that increase costs? Who wants to volunteer for that one? Todd.
I can start again. So, and of course, I'm going to be a bit biased as in flexible packaging, there's a huge infrastructure out there of existing petroleum-based options. And where our challenge is today is investing in the technology in order to be able to move from multi-materials to monomaterials. That takes a lot of time and a lot of resource and a lot of experimentation with new materials. And so there's a cost associated with that. There's just being very transparent about it. However, I think as you start to see these roll out and become more predominant in applications, you're going to, just like anything else, you'll see the scale change too. And like many other things, you're going to see the cost start to come in line. I've had more than one processor tell me that they say, Todd, I don't mind paying a little bit more, but I can't have a bunch of waste on top of that. I get it that we're developing right now, but on the back end, I can't lose both ways. So the real challenge is can we make that product, it might be a little bit more expensive to begin with, but can we make it in a way that's efficient and optimizing the operation?
Yep. Thank you. Okay, so in the interest of time, if any of the rest of our panelists have a feedback or an answer to this, please send it over to Grace and we will get it out in our post-webinar notes. One thing I just wanted to make mention of is the Wisconsin Cheesemakers Association, in partnership with the Center for Dairy Research, administer USDA grants called DBIA, and those are meant for dairy processors in our 11-state region to kind of help the industry. You do have to be a dairy processor, but I know there's a lot of you on this call, and we are likely to be releasing a special pot of money in the fall related specifically to sustainability. So if you're thinking about modifying, improving, enhancing equipment for packaging that is related directly to sustainable, recyclable, compostable, whatever, watch out for that announcement coming in August. Okay, so that was a random impromptu thing I was going to say that I didn't warn Grace about. Okay, Grace, I'm going to kick it back to you. And in our meeting notes, she'll send out a link to those grants. Okay, I'm done. Thanks, everyone. Grace, I can hear you through the wall, but not on the webinar. Okay, do you want to advance the next slide, Grace? Okay, you guys, we've lost Grace's audio. That's okay. She's got the slide ready. The last thing I want to do is highlight the next webinar. Our members only free webinar is on safety spotlight, PPE innovations. Good stuff, especially what's going on right now with the flu. So feel free to register for that on our website. As always, Grace will send out an email with contact information for our speakers, a recording of this presentation, as well as a link to DBIA and those grants that I just mentioned. And feel free to submit any other questions to our speakers. And thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your partnership and time.